Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily. If you are feeling charitable, please smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, and pop over to Twitter after this video. Concentrate on this video first, but afterwards go over to my Twitter and follow me at Movies TV Mad. So I've just found this really interesting article from Screen Rant. At this moment I was on Twitter and I found this. So it looks like a brand new article. It's by Stephen M. Colbert, who's written so much about Snyder, his DC movies, and this whole situation with the Snyder Cut. Justice League. Can Zack Snyder's proposed reshoot scenes actually happen? Zack Snyder wants to shoot extra scenes for his version of Justice League, but will it actually happen? For his most recent tease, he invited the winner of the 1,200 fan poster submissions behind the scenes for additional photography for Zack Snyder's Justice League, while also saying it was unlikely and highly speculative. I tell you what, Snyder shouldn't just write and direct films. He should actually be involved in marketing, because the way he's marketed this fight to release his cut of Justice League has been spectacular. Fans have been fighting for the Snyder Cut for over 2 years now, with new information about how complete and how completely different Snyder's version of the movie truly is, coming out at a steady clip during this time. This newest tease seems confident on Snyder's part, but with no apparent budging from the studio so far. What are the odds he'll actually get the funding he needs to shoot the scenes he's talking about? Many have pointed to the fact that he coyly said the additional photography is unlikely and highly speculative in his tease, but the simple context clues and familiarity with Snyder's sense of humour makes it clear this is being said with a wink. First, if Snyder didn't specify that additional photography isn't officially confirmed yet, it would be seen as confirmation of a green light, which he clearly hasn't happened yet, as far as we know, of course. Second, the prize is in effect a golden ticket, a La Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But what a golden ticket if the factory doesn't actually exist? Snyder has also previously specified at least Martian Manhunter's appearance wouldn't need to be shot, as he never got around to it. So some level of additional photography was always in the cards should the Snyder Cut get released. It may seem like the bridge too far considering Warner Bros. Resistance to releasing the cut so far. If they aren't even interested in releasing the cut as it is now, asking for the money to shoot even more scenes seems ludicrous to many. The fact that Snyder says the new scenes will include Batman when Ben Affleck says his passion for the role is gone, and Superman, who WB can't wrangle into a new contract, seems even more far-fetched. Not getting him into a new contract is something nobody actually knows right now, and nobody knows Warner Brothers' plans, if anything, for Superman right now, so that's highly speculative. But it's important to keep in mind that the Snyder Cut already needs work done, and green-lighting its release also inherently means Snyder will be getting some amount of funding to complete the movie. If Snyder is able to get that funding, adding on the money for additional photography is only an incremental ask once the mountain that is getting the Snyder Cut green light has already been moved. If AT&T wants to utilise the Snyder Cut on HBO Max, then we've moved past the novelty project for fan curiosity or any kind of incomplete release, as some like Kevin Smith have suggested. At this point, AT&T would want the Snyder Cut to be a boost to HBO Max subscribers, meaning they'd also want it to be as complete as possible, and also as different from the theatrical cut as possible, potentially marketing as something entirely different, as the Zack Snyder's Justice League title pushed by Snyder indicates. As far as the cast goes, Snyder said the new scenes would involve Batman, Superman, Lois Lane and Martian Manhunter, General Swanwick. Amy Adams and Harry Lennox don't seem as hard to get back, but Cavill and Affleck, the cornerstones of Zack Snyder's DCEU, don't have any return on the horizon. While Cavill still voices enthusiasm for the role, he's currently without a contract, and Affleck has been actively distancing himself from the franchise. When it comes to the potential of Affleck's return for the Snyder Cut, though, he hasn't only already gone on the record in support of Snyder Cut's release, multiple times, but he also said he'd help in any way he can. While he may have lost his passion for Batman, he's been very clear that Zack Snyder's vision is what got him signed up in the first place, and the behind-the-scenes issues with Justice League is what drove him away. If he had only had to suit up for a few days for additional photography in support of Zack's original Justice League vision, it's not as unlikely as one may think. The real hurdle would likely be the return of Henry Cavill as Superman. Consider Cavill refuses to support the Snyder Cut when asked, only saying he's more focused on the character's future. But if Snyder does manage to get the green light to move forward and Henry Cavill has the opportunity to suit up again to fix the movie that turned his famous smile into an embarrassing meme, the odds of him finally coming around may improve. Ultimately, the fate of Snyder's proposed additional photography is likely to intertwine with the rest of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If Snyder finally gets thumbs up and the money to complete his cut, odds are it will include additional photography. If not, well, there's not much use for additional photography then, is there? A very interesting article. What do I think about this? We discussed this when Snyder obviously announced what the prize would be. We were all surprised and we were all very excited. But obviously Snyder makes it clear it's unlikely. But that really doesn't mean anything anymore. Listen, this industry is one of these businesses where anything can absolutely happen. Things can change in a heartbeat. And this cut can happen. And this cut can have the additional photography it needs. Zack has interesting things that he wanted to do in this film. Now, Chris Von Svensson on the Ping Pong Flicks did a really interesting Ping Pong Flick show, and I was watching it this morning while I was getting ready. And it was very interesting when we went back to SnyderCon and we listened to what Zack had to say about the whole, scary idea, which scared Warner Brothers, and which the one they never shot and the one they never did. But the interesting thing Chris was talking about is, if there is additional photography, will they go back and do the scary idea? The scary idea is, in this post-apocalyptic nightmare world where Lois Lane dies and we see this nightmare Superman who seems to be being controlled by Darkseid, right? He's even got his own army, his own forces, right? So it would kind of make sense if we are going to do the whole Martian Manhunter reveal and shoot Batman and Lois Lane and Superman. I don't think Cavill's that hard to get back, by the way. Look, we don't know what Warner Brothers are thinking right now. It's a very, very interesting situation. So I think it's probable. I think it's possible. I'm not going to rub anything out here. I'm not going to be one of those people who says it's unlikely. Of course, the realist in me thinks, nah, this ain't going to happen. But then I know what goes down in this industry. Look, Warner Brothers understand that there's a fight to get this cut released. They know companies like Subway, comic book creators like the Deadpool creator has been involved in this push. Basketball players, football players. It is massive, right? They're actually going to do a screening to support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention of BVS, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Amazing. That's how big this movement is. Warner Brothers know that there's a big fandom. There's money to be made from Zack's verse of the DCEU. So what do? Has there been discussions since November the 17th? Have they been ongoing? I truly believe that there has been, but these things take time. Has there finally been an agreement? And is that why Zack did the whole thing? Look, Zack did the whole art competition for a reason. And the reason was to unleash this prize, which pretty much blows the whole thing wide open. Is there going to be additional footage shot? Is there going to be additional photography? Why would it? I know he said the unlikely event, but of course he's going to say that. And as Colbert says in his article, that could be part of Snyder's, humour. We just don't know. I'd like to think, in an ideal world, that this is actually happening. And of course, this is really exciting. But what does this mean? What does this mean? Does this mean that this film's just going to get finished and shown and that's the end of it? I believe that Zack Snyder should have a place in DC films. And I know that Walter Hamada knows that as well. It doesn't matter what happens, where it is. I think it's very interesting that since Hamada's come in, the films he's made haven't really rubbed out the Snyderverse. They haven't. So there's still a space for Snyder's little universe. Even if we never get to see his Justice League, I think there should be a part of DC films where he can write and direct movies. And if that's not continuing within the DCEU and it's within the black label or a new label of a film division, I would be very interested in that. But I believe that they do want him to finish his cut, that there has been major talks, that they have agreed to do additional photography. I don't know. And then you're jumping from one extreme to the other. Will he ever get to do Justice League 2 and Justice League 3? We know that Zack Snyder is a very divisive figure to many. I will never understand why. He doesn't say controversial things. He's not an aggressive guy. But people have this opinion. Some have, in the mainstream industry, the mainstream consumer have this opinion of Zack. I've never understood it. I mean, it's a very interesting situation. Do you bring Zack Snyder back, knowing how divisive he is? DC films, when you look at Shazam and Aquaman, there was a good feeling for those films. Birds of Prey had a May reaction, if you like, but I don't think the hate was really from some Snyder fans, the rogue elements, and from the fandom menace. But I think as a film, it's okay. It's nothing spectacular. But as I say, I would absolutely love for Snyder to come back and continue his art, but it's entirely up to them now. And of course, it's a risk for them because they've set everything in motion now. They've got 3 films out next year. You know, Black Adam, The Batman, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. So these plans are cemented and they're happening. And the Flash movie is happening. What's interesting to me, they're actually doing a kind of, not a copy and pasted version of Flashpoint, but they are doing one for the Flash movie. That was the original idea Zack wanted to do in his verse for the DCEU. So it's becoming very, very interesting how things change really quickly. For example, how they got rid of the original writer-directors for the Flash movie who wanted a lighter Back to the Future type of Flash movie as well. So I believe something is going on. And I think Warner Brothers may be in a position now to say, do you know what? We don't care what people say. We are going to do this. And as I say, there should be a little space in the DC film universe for Zack Snyder. There has to be. He's such a good director. He made really good DC content. I know everyone doesn't agree with that, but I believe there's a place for him to at least finish these Justice League movies, right? To finish his arc. And as I say, nothing since he's been moved away and since Justice League has changed that dramatically to say there's no space to continue his arc. Right now, Warner Brothers have got a Frankenstein's monster edition of Justice League, right? It's a version that nobody could or should be proud of. And this is an opportunity to right a wrong, to at least let his cut of this film be done and released. I'm hopeful. I'm positive. I'm more positive than I was a few weeks ago, right? Because a few weeks ago, we weren't hearing very much. And then this art competition started. And then the whole thing with the clapperboard, right, is nuts. But it does, shed some ray of hope in this situation. And I'm certainly very excited to see what happens next. And obviously, Screen Rant are talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. The big question is right now, will there be additional scenes? So I'm saying yes, tentatively, but we, of course, will see what will happen. Now, but I want to know what you think, guys and girls. Comment down below. Do you think that Warner Brothers has agreed to give Zack Snyder a budget to do additional footage, additional photography for his version of Justice League? Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.